The man who once dunked on Michael Jordan to win a playoff game quit basketball to be a bagger at a grocery store. When he was in college, he got kicked out and sent to jail for breaking the law. So he landed at another college that didn't even have a basketball team. But the only reason he made the NBA is his own 7-foot teammate slammed him on the ground, hurting his knee. John Starks was the toughest, no BS Knick back in the day, which is why the city loved him. But he is more of an underdog than anybody in today's NBA. Starks was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and had 4 brothers, which is why he's so tough. They would play ball, get bloody, but he wasn't allowed to cry. Starks had to save up money for college, so instead of playing basketball in high school, he worked at a grocery store. But when he got to university, his life started to fall apart. He was on the Rogers State basketball team, but never played because he was arrested for stealing a classmate's stereo. After 5 days in jail, he was expelled and transferred to Northern Oklahoma. He was averaging 10 points a game on their team, but was caught smoking weed in his dorm room and got expelled again. This time, he quit basketball altogether. Starks enrolled at Tulsa Junior College to take business classes. He gets his old job bagging groceries, but something didn't feel right. When I was back at the grocery store, I was thinking, is this all I want out of life? So without a real plan yet, he started playing pickup basketball on the weekends. Then one day during a shirts versus skins game, the coach of Oklahoma Junior College approached Starks and said, if you try out for my team, we'll pay for your class textbooks. That covered about $200, but it was actually the first step to a $25 million payday. In junior college, Starks went from off the bench to a starter, averaged 26 points and 14 boards as a point guard. He was finally picked up on a full D1 scholarship to Oklahoma State University, but his troubles were not over. He once missed the team bus because he was getting married. Starks cut the reception short and made the 2.5-hour drive in an hour 45 minutes, getting pulled over for speeding. He still made the game by halftime and scored 22 points. But despite a successful college season, Starks went undrafted in 1988. Nobody wanted a kid on 4 colleges in 4 years with legal trouble. But the Golden State Warriors gave him a chance as an undrafted free agent. However, he happened to be behind Rookie of the Year Mitch Richmond, so he didn't get much playing time and got cut. So once again, no NBA teams wanted John Starks. But just 3 years later, he would be dunking on Michael Jordan in the playoffs with thousands of people screaming his name. But he had to start at the bottom again. Starks played minor league ball in Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 1990. It made him finally stop taking his talent for granted and getting in trouble. His coach said, some guys come to the minor leagues with a bad attitude and think they shouldn't be here. Even though John had spent a year in the NBA, he never came off as a prima donna. So Starks may have been humbled, but he was still a fighter. So when the Knicks invited him for a tryout, he wanted to make an impression. During a practice, 6'3" John Starks tried to dunk on 7-foot superstar Patrick Ewing. Ewing was so pissed some random kid would even try that, made sure it never happened again. He slammed Starks on the ground, twisting his knee. But when Ewing injured his own teammate, he unintentionally created a legend. Because NBA rules said you can't cut a player who's hurt. So Starks got to work out and practice on the Knicks while rehabbing. From a 1-day tryout to a 3-month tryout, Coach Pat Riley loved what he saw. Riley is a no-nonsense guy who created the Heat culture, and Starks perfectly fits that mentality. He went from role player to starter in the 1993 season, but within 1 year had the low point of his NBA life. It would forever change the way people think about John Starks. But in the 93 playoffs, despite being all defense, Reggie Miller was torching him. Starks got so upset, he headbutted Miller and got himself ejected. The Knicks lost the game. But that fire created the best moment of his career. The 1-seed Knicks faced the back-to-back champion Bulls in the conference finals. New York went up 1-0 and had a 3-point lead in game 2. Starks brought up the ball with BJ Armstrong guarding him, but then he drives baseline to face 6'10" all-defense Horace Grant. As Starks jumps, Michael Jordan meets him at the rim, but Starks slams on both Bulls. It's the most iconic dunk in Knicks history and gave them a 5-point Game 2 win. After, MJ said, "I didn't know about him in college, but I know about him now." Yeah, because you went to North Carolina and Starks went to Oklahoma Junior College. However, MJ took it personal. The Bulls won the series, but when Jordan retired to baseball, the Knicks knew they had the talent to win the title. But what happened next still haunts Starks to this day. He became an All-Star in 1994 with 19 points and 6 dimes a night, from bagging groceries to the All-Star game. But in the playoffs, they beat the Bulls and the Pacers for New York's first NBA Finals since 1973. But before playing the Rockets, Starks' father died and he had to fly home for the funeral. It obviously affected him because in Game 1, Starks went just 3 for 18 in a loss. But he bounced back, 20 points and 7 dimes a night. Knicks took a 3-2 series lead. Then, in the final seconds of Game 6, Hakeem Olajuwon blocked John Starks. It gave Houston the win and it tied the series. But then in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Starks had one of the worst games of his career. He shot 2 for 18, including 1 for 10 in the fourth quarter. The Rockets won the game and the chip. If he wasn't known as a choker before, he was now. Remember when Reggie Miller did the famous choking sign on national TV? That was about John Starks. Well, sure, Reggie did it to Spike Lee on the sideline, but he was cooking the Knicks with John Starks guarding him. Then the next year, Miller took John Starks' soul. Game 2, Knicks up 6 with 20 seconds left. Starks switches off Reggie, who quickly hits a 3. Then, after a Knicks timeout, Reggie collides with Greg Anthony, steals the inbounds, runs behind the 3-point line to tie the game. 6 points in 5 seconds. So, the Pacers immediately foul John Starks, who steps to the line, misses the first free throw. They need this next one to win a playoff game. And dude is nervous, you can see it on his face, bricks it. Reggie hits his free throws, scoring 8 points in 9 seconds. Most people remember John Starks for all of that. A tough guy who softened up in the spotlight. But even getting to that moment was a miracle. He played 13 seasons in the league, from grocery store bagger to the NBA Finals. That is more of a winner than 99% of people. Speaking of Michael Jordan, the only guy to actually beat MJ one-on-one was this nerdy billionaire. And if it wasn't on camera, I wouldn't believe it either. But the entire story of how the guy beat MJ is fascinating.